As we saw in the introduction, Chopin was a very technical piano advisor. He repeatedly mentioned that at the piano the body must be relaxed and flexible down to the feet. Un corps souple, that is, a supple body, were his words. Being himself bony thin and fragile, Chopin came to the conclusion that the best musical immersion happens when the bones bear and transfer the forces at work. Everything else can now be dedicated to listening, to create, and to control what the fingers are doing. One of the fundamental concepts that novice piano students need to learn is that the fingers can be trained to support the weight of the hand and the weight of the arm. Quite similar to a baby learning to trust his legs when learning how to walk. This important idea is frequently undermined at the beginning, leaving the students no other choice but to use the muscles of the body to carry the load. The great French professor Monique de José made it quite clear in her books. A good pianist must learn to approach the instrument with complete relaxation. She called it point zero, that is, the perfect serenity of all muscles of the body, quite similar to a meditation approach. Monique de José wants to ask all students to be immersed in point zero at all times. In modern life, stressful activities like driving a motor car or working at the computer station can have a negative effect of the point zero. The consequences are sadly common: poor learning memory, hideous sound, physical fatigue, all adding to find little enjoyment at the piano. The approach to the instrument, whether to give a concert or to practice, requires a previous mental immersion in the music and also in the correct physical arrangement for piano playing. The body must be completely relaxed, yet the brain and each one of the fingers are ready to be called upon to play their role. To maximize body flexibility, the pianist sits at the front of the bench. Chopin recommended his students to reach the extremes of the keyboard with each hand, while the elbows hang freely. Then, if done correctly, the student learns to feel the natural path of both hands on the keyboard. This is a very important step because it trains the mind about the physical surface which is now the course of action. The relaxed pianist can now feel the center of gravity of every major articulation in the body. When placing the hands over the keyboard, the elbows must hang in complete freedom. This drill continues by rotating the upper body in circles over the hips. Very importantly, in circles. Elbows free at all times to the extent that they can swing while doing this drill. Now, the student is asked to play any key with the third finger so that the weight of the arm can be felt through it. All other fingers relaxed, and the third finger now plays the same key in pianissimo, piano, forte, fortissimo, etc. The aftertouch is supported by bones, while all other muscles are completely relaxed and flexible. Welcome to the Chopin feeling. At all times while practicing, a pianist can do a mind check to see whether all positions are supported by bones in the correct configuration. In the next video about Chopin's ideas on the hand, we will learn about the support that takes place inside the wrist carpal system. Who could better understand bone support than Chopin? Most historians agree that his long life illness was tuberculosis, while others suspect of cystic fibrosis. Whatever the case, he simply had very little muscular mass. Chopin was 170 centimeters in height, while weighing mere 40 kilograms. He simply didn't have enough muscles to be stiffed, so he would let the economy of the bones carry on with the weight and let the thoughts command the music. The result was a delicacy of sounds among vivid and passionate phrases, which amazed the whole of Europe. Many of those who listened to Chopin in vivo ran to write about the unique experience of being there. So, which muscles intervened in tension at the piano? Unfortunately, big ones. At the back, shoulders, arms, and even inside the hand because of the powerful muscles of the thumb. Most of these tensions appear because the brain still ignores at least two properties. One, the articulation of each finger at the knuckle joint, and two, how to hold the weight with each finger. As a consequence, the big muscles get tight to set the forearm at a fixed position, so that the fingers pulsate down but don't hold the weight. Piano teachers can actually see this problem when students do arpeggios or scales at the extremes of the keyboard. For example, in this case the elbow begins to distance itself from the body, while the wrist is awkwardly blocked inwards. Sometimes the whole body leans, making this tension less evident to the teacher. The sound is terrible and the student seems to barely make it. And now comes another major insight by Chopin. The action begins with the finger, to be followed by the wrist, the forearm, the arm, and everything else. This may very well be the most distinctive feature of Chopin's pianism, the fact that the fingers do most of the work, and everything else follows like a slave, to quote his own words. When novice or experienced pianists don't use the fingers as a trigger of all action, they are left with no option but to hit the keys with the arms, thus restricting any possibility to do fine nuances and pianissimos. Tension is permanent, and memory lapses are common. Please consider that the more relaxed when learning to play a piano piece, the better the sight reading and the faster and stronger the memorization. Stiff pianists have a harder time performing other cognitive tasks, maybe because the brain has to process the control of many other muscles that subsidize the incorrect posture. The correct mental and physical posture of the piano requires time to master. Depending on the neuromuscular system of the pianist, improving a deep-rooted habit may take weeks, months or years. However, the payback of a correct posture brings not only virtuosity and a better sound, but also the sensitivity to know when muscles are tense. On many accounts, Chopin was described to play the piano without moving anything but the fingers. A striking departure from many of today's concert pianists. According to Albert Hipkins, an English pianist that saw and heard Chopin in London, the master kept the elbows close to the body at all times, and played without drawing much weight from the arm. Chopin's playing was in honor to the music and for the music, and all he needed to charm and move the audience was to expose his soul with the wonder of sounds.